Hello guys, this is Jack, and today we're going to be reviewing Highs to Lowest, which is the new Spike Lee joint, which stars Denzel Washington, Jeffrey Wright, A$AP Rocky, Ice Spice, Princess Nokia, and other Spike Lee normies. So I saw this movie yesterday at the Williamsburg Cinemas in Brooklyn with a couple of my friends. It was a whole, spiel because one of my friends, it was his birthday, so I wanted to check the film out in New York City because this is where the film is taking place, alongside also the film being only in theaters right now compared to, straight to streaming, which is Apple TV Plus. So of course, I wanted to check out the new Spike Lee joint. I'm a major fan of his works, going back to Do the Right Thing, all the way to currently, which is the last film that he did, Da 5 Bloods, which was really great and underrated, and unfortunately didn't get the Best Picture nomination that year, alongside with a couple acting nominations, including Delroy Lindo. So I was just really excited to, hear what Spike is cooking up next with this film. And on top of that, also him, readapting or remaking or reimagining the super famous Kurosawa film from the early 60s, I believe, High and Low, which is one of the greatest crime movies of that era, and probably one of the best Akira Kurosawa films. It's top 5 in my humble opinion. So, you take that, you also take some of Spike Lee's aesthetics alongside this retelling of the story, and what you get is actually a really interesting look inside of the music industry, as Denzel plays King David, basically kind of like a religious undertone situation with the film. But he plays this guy who is a music executive, and he's running around, making deals, and one of his sons gets kidnapped by a person on the other side of the phone who turns out to be A$AP Rocky. And he's a rapper called Young Felon who is trying to make it big in the music industry, and he decides to kidnap Denzel's son in order to, get fame and notoriety. But even before that, he releases his son and instead actually kidnaps the other wrong person, who is basically Denzel's son's friend, played by Jeffrey Wright's son, Elijah Wright. And this causes a whole rift between Jeffrey Wright's character and Denzel's character, and the way they're trying to figure out how to bring the money to this guy who is very, very, crazy and wants, fame. And also on top of that, Jeffrey Wright plays this Muslim cab driver who is very torn by the whole entire situation, straight to the point where you kind of start to feel that maybe his way of thinking with this whole fiasco is kind of very crazy. But I will start by saying that this film is very unique. Once again, it's another Spike Lee joint where he's throwing a lot of shit at you. There's a lot of crazy editing. Some of the editing is a little bit choppy and all over the place, and other times it's kind of smooth. You also have the score, which is completely overbearing, but Howard Drossen, who did the score. But the score is very overbearing, loud. There's a lot of inappropriate sound and soundtrack design with the film. But even then, aside from the first half of the film where it's a little bit messy, it throws you right in with the kidnapping fiasco and just the way all the characters are trying to figure out what to do with this situation. But after the son comes back and they find out that the other person is kidnapped, that's where the film starts to really close in, and you start to really feel a lot of the tension between all the main characters. But yeah, I actually really enjoyed this. I think aside from a messy first act, some of the overbearing composing music, and just some of the weird frenetic editing in the first half of the film. Aside from all that, I still really enjoyed this. I think Denzel, his performance in this film is really, really great. Once again, he's reteaming with Spike Lee. It's been a long time since they reteamed with each other. I think the last time was Inside Man back in 2006, I believe. So this was just a nice pace of a return for both of them. It's really nice to also see Jeffrey Wright, hang out with Denzel Washington, because I think they're on the same playing level field as far as acting goes, and they both play really well with their respective characters. I was actually really surprised and shocked to see and hear and understand A$AP Rocky's character, Young Felon, who I'm a huge A$AP Rocky fan, And I've been waiting for like that new album that he's supposed to drop this year. It's been a long time, coming, but man, like he actually goes toe to toe with Denzel in some scenes, mostly on the phone, but once he goes into like the studio with Denzel and they have like this little like rip off a little thing, that's where the film starts to really, get what the entire point of the narrative is, which is actually the notion of the music industry and what has changed over the past couple of years. Because Denzel's character, he grew up in the music industry like around the 90s, and he understands like the old way of, advertising artists and labels and whatnot. But today, like everything's just, it's all about streaming numbers, it's all about AI, it's all about like the clout, and the whole thing kind of starts to, boil up in the beginning with Denzel's character and Jeffrey Wright's son. They're in the car, they're talking about the music they like, but also at the same time, like Jeffrey Wright's son is like on the phone a lot and he's trying to like, get some clout and whatnot because he's a basketball player. But Denzel's character is just like, hey, like shut the phone off, like actually, talk like a man, like let's have a good conversation about like things in life, and like stop going on your phone a lot, because that's not what real life is. Real life is like exactly where you're at right now with like real people, 1-to-1 or 2-to-2 or whatever. And that also plays with one scene where Denzel's character is talking to one of the executives about like the AI technology and like how it's like changing the artist's perception of music and the music industry as a whole. And King David is just like dismissive about the whole AI situation. He's just like, nah, bro, like this is not cool. This is not the way of like doing things as far as like making music, and it's like fake and it's not authentic compared to, the stuff that we have on the label. And that opens up the conversation, about the music industry. And then there's also a really great scene with like Denzel's son character in the bedroom where they're talking about, the whole situation about the kidnapping and how he came back, but like the other person didn't come back, and it's like ruining his perception and fame on social media, and like he's getting clowned on Black Twitter. That's like another like aspect that I really enjoyed and was really thought-provoking as far as Spike Lee does his things. But overall, I really enjoyed this. I give this a 4 out of 5. I think this is another great Spike Lee joint. I do not have any like other issues with the film. It's very frenetic, fast-paced, and once the film ends, it ends in like 4 different endings, but that's literally Spike Lee. He always does this thing where he just ends his movie in like 4 different ways, 4 or 5 different ways. And you just have to like take it all in, because it's Spike Lee. He's very peculiar with his way of like doing subtle stuff, and just a lot of stuff that's happening right now in America. But yeah, I give this a 4 out of 5. As far as like awards contention, I don't really see this going anywhere, unfortunately, but I could see Denzel getting, a Critics' Choice Award nomination or a Golden Globe nomination to kind of like start the conversation, maybe a SAG award. And as far as like Spike Lee goes, I think this is another one where it's going to be kind of ignored this season. But I think that's probably because like Apple TV Plus is going forward with The Lost Bus, which is the new Matthew McConaughey film, Paul Greengrass film. I think that's their major player this year. But who knows, maybe Highest to Lowest could be, the one that actually is Apple's main push. But I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, thank you guys for, checking this review out. I will be talking about some of the stuff at TIFF because the tickets are on sale next week. So I will be, talking about the stuff that I got into and just other stuff around that. And then, keep an eye on some more reviews on this channel, awards predictions, whatnot. Thank you guys so much. Take care. Peace out.